So we're still in the desert, believe it or not. We're in the book of Deuteronomy, and we're getting close to the end, but we're still in the desert. And there's just all these minor adjustments, right? It's like when we get to the end, that's when all the kind of challenges seem to surface, oddly enough, but that's where we are in this moment. We are in Parashat Re'eh, about to start the new beginning in the Promised Land, but still so many kinks before us. And this Torah portion begins, Re'eh anochi noten lefanechem hayom bracha uklala. See, this day I set before you blessing and curse. את הברכה אשר תשמעו את מצוות אדוני אלוהיכם אשר אנוכי מצווה אתכם היום. Blessing if you obey the commandments of your God that I enjoin upon you on this day. וקללה אם לא תשמעו את מצוות אדוני אלוהיכם וסרתם מן הדרך אשר אנוכי מצווה אתכם היום ללכת אחרי אלוהים אחרים אשר לא ידעתם. And curse if you do not obey the commandments of your God Adonai, but you turn away from the path that I enjoin upon you on this day and follow other gods that you have not experienced. Do as I say, God has commanded, as we have agreed in our covenant, and you shall enjoy blessing. Sartem, and turn away or remove yourself from the right path, and suffer the consequences. Pretty straightforward. No? Yes? Okay. Well, we'll decide that in a few minutes. And I'd really like to examine the first three words of this Torah portion. Re'eh anochi noten lefalechem hayom bracha uklala. Re'eh anochi noten. See, this day I set before you blessing and curse. The first word of the Torah portion. Re'eh. And this is what the Torah portion is called. Re'eh comes from the word in Hebrew, lirot, to see. But commentators like Rashi and Ibn Ezra, who are medieval commentators, they actually don't think it's just to see, but rather to behold. Behold doesn't mean to just see. It's not something passive. It's to observe something really impressive. To observe is to be active. And it's something that we do intentionally. And additionally, what's really interesting is re'eh is in the singular form, and the rest of the sentence switches to plural. And in Hebrew, that works, especially biblical Hebrew. It's not like English where that would be strange, and your grammar teacher would fix that. In Hebrew, it works. The second word is anochi, meaning I, but it's the formal use of the word I, kind of like in English how we have you and thou. So in English we have, in Hebrew, we have ani, I, and we also have anochi, the formal I. Yes? Are you falling asleep? Don't fall asleep. Grammar in Hebrew is exhilarating. Just stay with me, I promise. The reward, okay? Just be with me. We've done two words, one more. The third word is set before you blessing and curses. But the word in the Torah portion is noten, coming from to give or to offer. Kind of like the name Nathan, Natan, it means to give. Right? So it's not just something that is set before us, we are offered a gift. So if we put this all together, the verse reads a little bit more like this. Behold, you individuals here, all of you, formal, I, God, give before you blessing and curse. A little more clunky, but far more dramatic. And it's definitely articulated more precisely with the opening words, understanding that they have enormous gravity. And there's so much more meaning and active participation on our part when you go through those words and read them a little differently. And reading it this way, we understand that the Israelites, in this moment, each and every one of us are standing before God before we go into said promised land and offered a gift, the gift of choice. Choose to go down the path of blessing or choose to go down the path of curse. Now hold that thought for just a moment. I used to work with Rabbi Bob Davis in Miami Beach, Florida. And at the time I was serving as the Hebrew school director, and I would often seek his counsel. And I would walk into his office and I would say, Rabbi, I have a problem. And he would stop me immediately and say, no, you have an opportunity. And I admit that in the moment, I would roll my eyes and say something like, yeah, right, okay, sure. Anyway, here's my problem. And God forbid, it was not that I was trying to write him off. It's just I wasn't aware of my words and what I was saying and the impact I was having on my own work. My mentality wasn't there. When I approached certain issues as problems, he was right. I didn't realize that I was already inhibiting myself from finding a thoughtful solution. But when I finally realized that I had an opportunity, that's when the solutions washed over me like rain, and all of a sudden, I wasn't just able to solve that one problem, but rather think about my challenges in a whole different light. In recognizing that my problem was actually an opportunity, I was able to tackle the issue at hand from a much bigger and more impactful perspective in the long run. The rabbis in Devarim Rabbah, which is the Midrash, on the book of Deuteronomy, say that God did not give Israel the blessings and curses for their hurt, but only to show them the good way which they should choose in order to receive goodness. Meaning the blessings couldn't just be delivered or handed to them, they had to be chosen. And they were chosen when we intentionally made good choices that are deliberate. It's an approach. It's a mentality. Choosing blessing is a process by which we live out our lives. Parshat Re'eh is placed in a really unique spot. It's towards the middle end of the book of Deuteronomy, and we are days away from entering the promised land after a difficult but soul-stirring journey through the desert, and we're about to start anew. And we're a generation and a half removed from the slavery narrative, and our covenant with God is about to take hold in a new place. We are going from wandering to settled. The 40-year journey to get to this point was supposed to help us band together, create trust between each other with our God, and most importantly, to shift our mentality. Give us a new mindset that helps us make noble and worthy decisions, helping us to avoid the desire to build idols when we are impatient, help create a temperament of openness when we encounter the other or the stranger, improve our approach of individualistic needs and simultaneously the collective. That was our therapy journey, trauma and all. And here we are reliving this narrative together. And additionally, as we mentioned earlier, next Thursday will be the first of the month of Elul, right before the high holidays, where we read Psalms and practice this reflection for a renewed Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I want to go back to our three opening words of the parasha, where we're asked to be active participants in living our lives. And we didn't even unpack the maybe meaty part, the blessings and the curses, but there's a reason for that, because the reality is if we are not focused on the conduit by which we approach making choices with intentionality and vigor and deep awareness, then we not only miss out on profound decision making, but we also miss out on the ideological shift, the awareness, recognizing that intentional decision making helps us live our lives more meaningfully. And you're probably thinking, yeah, Rabbi, thanks. We know we need to live our lives meaningfully. But it's not so easy, because it means we have to question everything about ourselves, and that's not comfortable. We have to, as my professor used to say, Dr. Zohar Aviv, take our exclamation points and turn them into question marks. The things that we hold truest and dearest, we have to say, is this right? I've been doing it for so long, I'm not even sure. Last Monday, the Times had a spread on the economic divide and how even within each political party, we see a differentiation in decision making. Lee Drutman, who's a political scientist, shares that on the surface, American politics is deeply calcified, stuck, and hyperpolarized. And below the surface, he adds, American politics is rich with latent factions and repressed diversity. I was really disheartened to read that. To be clear, I wasn't surprised, nor is the economy the only place we have a hard time finding consensus. Everywhere we turn, we encounter nuanced divisions. And it feels really daunting to wrestle with that because it's uncomfortable. Because to grapple the depth of anything is heavy on the heart and heavy on the mind. But that's what it means to be human, and that's what it means to be a Jew. These days we are quick to oversimplify, to categorize, to speak in 140 characters, rather than behold complexity and wrestle in nuance. Whether it's race-related, gender, economic divide, what have you, the list goes on, sometimes even just between family members as well. Re'eh reminds us to see things with a wider, more profound lens, recognizing and surfacing rather than suppressing the complex, seeing problems as opportunities. And I'd like to end this evening with a poem by Rabbi Naomi Levy in light of Re'eh and the high holidays that are right around the corner. May you break out of your narrow vision, your narrow arguments and resentments. May you enter the place where your soul dwells and respond with spaciousness to all that comes your way. May you forgive, repair, soften, see. May you open up. The gift of a great expanse is yours to have. It already resides within you. May God be with you, and may God work through you now and always. And together we say, Amen.